Range is hot.
Range is hot. Hey, ladies and gents, how you doing? I'm Dennis Hayslip. We're here at the Alexander Recording Company, and this is another episode of the Rock and Roll No Show. No show. Stuff you need to know about the no shows that are going on. Anyway, back again with my dear friend and co-host, Kobe Redler. How you doing, Bone?
Doing good.
Good to see you. How was your week?
It's been good.
What'd you do?
Ate a lot of deer meat. That was good.
Oh yeah, man, that was pretty wild, wasn't it? Yeah, we had a little
Grill Master D over here.
Right, yeah, we had a little farm time. It was pretty good, man. I enjoyed it too.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get a big bonfire in the next week or two.
There you go. Full moon Saturday.
Yeah, before the 900 feet of snow hits. So, all right, like regular no shows, we have a great guest on the show today. Old friend of mine. I've had the pleasure of working with him in the studio before. I can't say enough good stuff about the guy. As far as musicians go, top notch. As far as human beings go, top notch. I'm really proud to have him on the show. Jeff Kane is from the NOLA Jazz Band, and he has a long list of other things that you'll be proud to hear him talk about. So, Jeff, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me here.
Man, it's good to have you.
Yeah, great. I love your place. So it's always nice coming back here.
Right on, man.
Good memories.
Yeah, I'm telling you, my favorite part of the recording. What was the tuba player's name?
Oh, Pete. Yeah.
We had Pete, right about where you are. Pete was over here, and I hadn't really designed a control room to contend with the tuba, but it was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
we put him over there, and once I got the headphones, the thick noise canceling headphones, I was like, oh yeah, yep, that sounds pretty good. That tuba's killing it.
It's nice and tight. Someone looking in the window, the recording window, went, what is that? This big sousaphone over you. Something's attacking Dennis.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. Yeah, we definitely had a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, still one of my favorite tunes off of there is Hornman Blues.
Oh yeah.
I just love that song.
Yeah, it's a tune that not that many people know. There's a clarinet player who's actually a professor down in New Orleans, Dr. Michael White, who studies all the old players and stuff, tries to play with them. But he actually writes a lot of really cool stuff. So that's one of his originals. So yeah, it's become one of our classic songs that we do.
I love it. To hear Abby singing is just, it's almost too much.
Yeah,
you know
she owns it. Yeah, she owns it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, I would encourage y'all, if you haven't heard the NOLA Jazz Band, do yourself a favor. Y'all are playing at Noche quite a bit, right?
Yeah, we're still, we played at Noche, and then we started out at the Des Moines Social Club, which, was no longer. But we were also playing at XBK Theater by Drake, which is Toby Parks' new place.
Right, and how's that going? Is it?
It was going good. It's a great spot. It's got a little second tier balcony, as you come in, and there's some great seating. They've got wonderful bar, great sound. Unfortunately, we started there right after, in October, when they kind of officially opened.
Right.
They were only open for about 6 months before all this happened, but I think they're going to make it through this.
Cool.
And it's just a great place. So if people haven't been there, once things kind of semi-open up here again, it's XBK. Right. Ex-Brooklyn kid. Toby came to Des Moines from Brooklyn. For music. So that's what it stands for. But it's a great spot, as well as his Noche. Max does a great job there too.
It's in the same building as Sonic Factory, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Okay. Sonic Factory, and then Built Guitars, I think too. All three of them are in there. So,
okay, cool.
If I recall.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the description. Nick, he told me not to talk to him anymore. Nick, put a link in the description, please. Thank you. Here, let me mark time here.
The man in the back room.
Yeah. That's our producer, Nick, who is not saying anything, and he's staring at me through the glass like, shut up. All right, so Jeff, let's back up a little bit and tell me, I want to know a couple of things. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious how you took a clarinet and became a rock star.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Because like I started out in
Yep.
school with a recorder,
Mhm.
you know, and I was like, man, like I can make a couple of notes, but man, I gotta have that guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, give me some background, where you grew up, like fill me in, tell me a little bit about where you're from, how music affected, you know, you growing up, and you know, hit me
Yeah.
with some of that stuff.
Absolutely. Neither of my parents were musicians. My dad, you know, grew up in Fairfield and was an athlete and stuff, but he always loved music. It's kind of interesting because I hadn't really thought back this far till you said this. So,
Fairfield, Iowa.
Fairfield, Iowa. Yeah,
Okay,
my
cool.
parents were
Right.
both from Iowa.
Awesome.
My dad actually won the state mile in 1951. So,
Wow.
Yeah, he was a good athlete. Went to Parsons College, which
That's
is
awesome, man.
no longer. But I'm thinking back now. We lived in. I was born in St. Louis, and then we lived in Baltimore up until the time I was started school, and then we lived in Colorado up through my sophomore year of high school. But we lived in Baltimore. I always remember, you know, hearing music and stuff. Like I said, my dad and I think my parents, my grandparents definitely were big music fans. But I remember going to the store. My mom, there's this like little mini saxophone thing, and we got it from the store, and you could learn songs. I didn't even look at the music. I just started playing stuff, and I went around. I didn't know it was busking, but I ran around to all the neighbors, and we were in a bad area of Baltimore. I went around. I don't know why my mom let me go around. Maybe she was following me or something, and I didn't know it. But so I went by myself to the neighbors, and I had like my little, you know, hat thing, and I'd play the songs, and they just picked up my ear, and they'd like give me money. So I didn't realize
That's awesome, man.
until I was older that I was actually busking.
Now, so when you were in, how old are you?
I'm 58 now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm almost 52.
Yeah.
So some of the places that you were in Baltimore,
Yeah.
I was in,
Yeah.
but instead of getting to busk, my grandfather was a Baptist minister in Baltimore,
Yeah.
and he would take me around to knock on doors and tell people they were going to hell if they didn't come to church.
I don't know. Might have knocked on our door. We didn't know.
But yeah, so wow,
Yeah.
It's a small world, isn't it?
Yeah. So then we moved to Colorado, and I was sharing with you before the podcast. My grandfather was the postmaster in Council Bluffs for years, Iowa. But he and my grandmother grew up, Great Depression, and they loved dancing. They'd always go out to the dance halls and stuff. And he always really loved music. So they lived with us after he retired about 9 months out of the year in Colorado. So he'd have all this music on all the time. And then, you know, he'd quiz me on stuff, you know, on what the music was and stuff. I just really, really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how broad it was because I had this real affinity for, you know, especially older jazz, because that's a lot of what they played. But things like gospel and that too. And after my grandfather passed first. After my grandmother passed away, we were going through a house and I got all of her records, and they were playing like Mahalia Jackson, you know, who's the great gospel singer down, and all this other stuff. So I mean, all this stuff was going through my subconscious as I was growing up, because, you know, most people would have on top 40 or whatever. I mean, we still did that with the kids my age, but when we were at the house, all this stuff was going on, you know, and we were having people over and parties and stuff. So, you know, subconsciously all that kind of rubbed in somehow. So, but I wanted to play the drums. My mom thought they were too loud. So the first thing I brought up was they had this raffle, and our neighbors all played the accordions. So I won this raffle for like this beginning accordion. So anyway, I got this accordion in third grade and started playing it. And then it got a little too hard. I remember I got to like this thing called Vegetables on Parade. Remember there's this like marching vegetables. I can't do this. So I think I just didn't like it anyway. So then for some reason, I think it was because I was listening to all the big band stuff, my grandfather and that. Really something about the clarinet, you know, hearing Artie Shaw and Benny Goodman and some of the really old New Orleans guys. They could really emote with it. I wanted to play that, so my parents let me. You didn't start till 5th grade. Right. But the teacher in town, they had me start with him in 4th grade. My fingers could barely get over the tone holes because there's open holes on the clarinet. So he started me out, and I just loved it. I mean, they didn't have to tell me to practice, you know, because I just loved it. And I'd pick up stuff by ear and play from the big bands that my grandfather liked, because he was my biggest supporter because I'd be practicing. Our house wasn't that big. I'd be practicing in kind of by the dining room / living room.
Right.
And he'd be on the dining room there doing his crossword puzzles, listening to music, smoking his Camels with no filters, and sipping his whiskey, and telling me what a great job I was doing. So I had my first, like, that was like my bar set at home.
Right, a guy like that you gotta listen to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
so I was used to the bar thing already. I had a guy drinking, egging me on, smoking cigarettes.
The guy sitting there smoking the Camels and drinking a whiskey, if he says, "Hey, you're doing a good job, kid," he's not.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean? Like,
well, and funny story. So, like I told you, he wanted to make sure I knew the music and stuff. So we'd listen to this stuff at night on the big bands called Chuck Cecil's whatever big band era or something. Mm-hmm. And he'd play all the songs. So he'd always quiz me on them because he was a really intelligent guy. I mean, he was one of those Renaissance guys, just knew a lot of stuff. But he'd always quiz me, who's this player? Who'd he play with? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I didn't realize this till I was older, what had happened in this situation. So my sister took ballet lessons downtown. So my grandfather, sometimes we'd take her before she could drive. So we were going down there, and of course he wanted to take her because it was down in this building in the basement, but up above it was the bar, of course, right? So we're at the bar, and he'd get a whiskey or something, and my grandfather would make friends with people instantaneously wherever he was. He was just like bigger than life. So one time I'm sitting there, I'm having my drink, my Coke, and he comes over and he goes, hey, this is my good friend Bobby. Bobby, come over here. It's my grandson Jeff. He goes, hey, and he goes, he can name you any old song on the jukebox. He goes, just put something on. He goes, it's probably like 10 or 11. He goes, no, he can't. And they had a lot of those old songs on there. So the guy'd go over and he pushed some song, and he goes, he can tell you the name and, what the song is and who played it. So they did something. The guy's like, he won't know this one. They didn't do anything like In the Mood or anything. So I was listening to it, and I go, Artie Shaw Nightmare. And the guy's like, I can't believe he did that. My grandfather's like, great job. So anyway, I found out later I was kind of like his hustle because he was betting these guys on the side. I mean, not only did I learn music, but it's good for my grandfather too because he was doing a side hustle with me in the bar. So anyway,
well, you got to make a living.
Yeah. Well, he was retired. He had to make money somehow, right?
For sure. So, if you're gonna make money on music, that's a good way to do it. Yeah. Well, and then ahead of his time.
Well, I was fortunate too because like I said, I liked that music. When I got into junior high, there was a guy who was the middle school teacher at the time, and it was his first year there. And he had a Dixieland band, or he knew that stuff. So he had me try out for that, and I got into that, and that's kind of how I got into the old music. I call it traditional jazz, but Dixieland is what they use. And that kind of got me going, and then from then on, I had my own band in high school, in college. At UNI, we had a group that we got together that won Southern Comfort had a national competition because Southern Comfort came up the river just like the music did. Right. So when I was at UNI, it was there. I think there's like 80 colleges that submitted blind tapes, and they had a battle of the bands at this national jazz thing. It was us, University of Colorado, Denver, and New England Conservatory of Music. So that was really cool. So we all got to do a live battle of the bands, and the judge at the time was Tommy Newsom from the Tonight Show. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. He's a really nice guy. We got to hang out with him after and stuff. But that's kind of how I got started in that and had that as an interest. That's kind of how.
Awesome. And so, when you were doing the stuff with your granddad, that was Colorado.
That was Colorado. Yeah. So Colorado. I started school there up until my sophomore year of college, and my dad's job brought him back here. And my parents are both from Iowa. My dad's from Fairfield, my mom's from Council Bluffs. So it was kind of a final move for the family, and then I've lived in Iowa since then.
Cool. So from UNI, what was the name of the first, not college, but band that you were in? What was the first one?
Well, I was in the jazz bands up there, but that band we had there was the UNI Bearcats, was what it was called. And then I can't even remember them all. I mean, I played saxophone too, so I played with a lot of blues bands and R&B bands and that type of stuff too, just to make money, have fun. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I tell you, I did the cover band thing for a while, and a couple of nights ago, Jamie brought me a box down from upstairs,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Get rid of this junk," and I'm going through it, and it's a DVD of some Southern rock band I was in from Papa's Corner. You remember that? Like, there used to be a place in town called People's.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
People's?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
People's got bought up and sold. I don't know if it was a third or fourth time from People's, but it was called Papa's Corner.
Yeah.
And it was that Southern rock band playing at Papa's Corner.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you anything about the show, but I know we got paid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good thing.
I can't tell you anything about the Southern rock songs, set list, any of that, but I know we got paid because that's why we were all doing it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was like everybody had their own like original band hustle that they were trying to do, and no one was making a penny by doing that. But you could put together a decent cover band, and we talked about maybe doing like a Skinner tribute thing. When we first started it, and I'm like, no, I can't do it. You know, because then we'd have to do Freebird. That means you got to have a piano player that can actually like tickle the ivory, and then
Artemis Pyle wasn't it the piano player?
And then like, no,
it's not gonna everybody like that.
So and I mean, if you play Freebird once, then that's all you'll ever hear at the end of a show again.
I actually got to see them in Colorado in '76, Mile High Sunday. They had like 9 bands, and that was before the plane crash.
Yeah.
So
How was that?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, they were.
I mean,
they were
the
great.
energy of like how they affected a crowd.
Oh yeah, they were really good. Ryan's such a great front guy, and Steve Gaines, and all those guys. Cassie.
The thing for me is Van Zandt, the way he never wore shoes, right? And me being from the South, I think I understood that. And so when I would do the Southern rock gig, I never wore shoes either.
Yeah.
Now being in Iowa, it's a little tricky.
You know what I mean? The winter gig sounds
right.
like.
So you have to be like, like, hey, we're gonna pick the tempo up on this a little bit so I don't get frostbite.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me, like, after you got back to Iowa, tell me how you got to the point where, and Jeff is a client exec for Ticketmaster, is that correct? All right. Ticketmaster, and then you're on the board of Civic Music.
Yep.
Right, and then past president of Civic Music, and you're on the board of Music Under the Stars.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Cool. So tell me the transition of like going from I'm having a good time playing in the jazz bands. How did you get to make a career basically out of your love for music?
Yeah. It was kind of a long transition. So I played in college, and then a couple years at UNI, and then my mom passed away. So I came back to Des Moines to kind of be with my dad for a while, and then he got remarried. So I played at Drake in the jazz band down there. Number of really good people. Wayne Page, who's a jazz musician in town, he was playing in that. A guy named Mark Lawson, who was a piano player from Mason City, who was actually the first choice for Wynton Marsalis to be his piano player, and he turned him down.
Wow.
So, because he wanted to do classical and like had a orchestra and stuff. He's with one of the big opera halls in Germany or something now. Just amazing musician. But I played around Des Moines, and then my kids were born, and I was in sales. I was on the road a lot. I was involved with my kids' stuff, so all this stuff was pulling at me. And as I was still playing around town, people were like, hey, can you do this? And it was one of those things where I couldn't do everything, right? So I basically quit playing in public for a long time. I mean, I'd play at home for fun. I'd play in church. But I didn't really, do, gigs per se, because my life just became so full. So that's kind of a little bit of a void, but, raising my kids was, the most important thing for me at that point. And then about 10 years ago, as my son was getting early high school, I wanted to get back into it. It was kind of like, okay, this is going to be me time. My wife and I were planning out our kind of, where the kids are going to go, what are we doing? Started finding our, our own interests in things more and getting involved. So music was one of mine. So I started taking lessons from Clarence Padilla, so the clarinet professor at Drake, just to get my chops back. Mm-hmm. And he's a really good friend. We're both the same age, because he's kind of like, what do you want to get out of this? So started taking lessons from him, and then over a series of about 3 years started trying to get the band started up. And we played for a thing for the Jazz and Wine Tent that they used to have for the Des Moines Arts Festival. Mm-hmm. We did a one-off there, and then I did a kind of totally different group the next year, and then that was 2014, and then 2015 we started playing at the Social Club, mm-hmm. which was, I just initially wanted to do something like once a month. I thought I'll play at a restaurant or something, mm-hmm. but knew Zach Mannheimer, knew Mickey Davis, mm-hmm. who was doing the programming there, and went to him. I said, hey, you guys have an off night or something we can play? Maybe we can pull some people in. And they started doing some jazz stuff on Fridays for a happy hour, which was working really well. So mm-hmm. we just slotted in on a Friday. First time we played, they had maybe 30 people there, if that. And then just the next month there was a lot more, and it just kind of grew. I mean, we didn't know. The deal we had with them was initially was just tips mm-hmm. and a little bit of the door, and then we'd see what happened over 3 months, and it ended up being till they closed. It was like a 4.5 year thing.
I know the last time that I was there, I think me, you, and Mathis went the last time, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Didn't you go?
One me.
Maybe it was Yazel. But my point is, it took a long time to get in the door.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people there. It was like,
yeah.
Well, eventually I'll see them. I mean, y'all had it going on. And I think the thing that was so cool about it is the fan base, they really were fans of the music. Mm-hmm. I mean, because people are coming out, the same folks, they made it part of their life.
Right. Right. And the thing that, I realized too, because the people down in New Orleans, New York, that have been mentors to me and stuff, they're amazing players. And I'm just, 5% good enough that I can sit in on the songs I know and stuff, and they'll let you play. There's kind of a hierarchy. If they know you and know you can play a certain level, they'll let you play with them. But just sitting in with them and knowing those people and stuff, part of it is, music, any music really started out, and the music that we play specifically, or that style, even if it's newer songs that we do in that style, it was dance music, it was party music, the New Orleans music, a lot of it, it started out as multicultural, and it was ways for people to express themselves, the slaves in Congo Square, and then, a lot of the interaction of all the different cultures, the French, the European, mm-hmm. the bands, all of that, they played in Storyville, which was the, where the legal prostitution at the time was and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, but a lot of it then, coming up was expressive music, it was dance music, it was that type of thing. So I think a lot of times people who are musicians forget that part of that is people got to enjoy themselves, right? Right. Your music can be great, but if you go out there and just
right,
if you don't say anything to the audience, you're like, hey, I'm really good.
Right.
Yeah, that's not fun for anybody. I mean, that's boring in life itself. So
but there's only one job I can think of where that's acceptable, and you walk up there and you pull out your staff. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Tap it a couple of times. That's about it. You know what I mean? And really, you see the person's back anyway. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But that's about it. Other than that, you got to boogie a little.
Oh yeah, bit, and you've got to play with people you like. My wife, for a long time, was when I was trying to get the band together, and we've gone through iterations and too, because people have gone on to other things or whatever. And she says, "Why is it taking so long to get everybody together?" I said, "Well, first of all, I got to get people interested when they didn't know who we were." Initially. And I said, but then I've got to find people that I like. You've got to like you've played in bands. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got to play with people that
it's a
that
marriage.
you enjoy. Yeah, and
you are married to, like in my case, 5 people.
Mhm.
You know, and you have to find that relationship where you can have a bad night. You personally can have a bad night, and those people will understand it and not hold it against you. And they can have a bad night, and it's a really weird relationship for sure.
Yeah, and it's funny because we'll sit there sometimes, like my singers, got Abby Sawyer and Lauren Vilmain. They both, Phil and Lauren will sing if Abby can't. She's doing some things this winter for us. And so, I kind of got the thing with the music we do, you don't really know what's going to happen. And so I'm kind of guiding if people are going to take solos or whatever we do, because it's not really crafted out. But I'll just kind of look, because they're not sure how long the solos are going to go or who's going to go. And I'll just kind of look at them, they'll look at me, and, I'll kind of wink. So people think we're like winking at each other, but I'm giving them the sign that this is the last chorus. They're going, last chorus. And so we're just winking at each other. And then, sometimes Lauren will do it more. She'll go like, or Abby. They're feeling, sassy, or they'll be like, like.
Well, I mean, like with Abby, when is she not feeling sassy?
Oh yeah. I mean, they're both great. She's just such a great front person, and that's the thing that's kind of neat too about the music that you can do is, and I think I learned this because I've been a leader in business and had a lot of teams and stuff. Is that I learned this from my dad, I guess, going back now that I'm thinking out loud. Is always utilize people with their best skills in the best way that you can make them shine. So, Abby, as we started out, I was doing some emceeing and stuff. I don't have a problem talking. But as we did it, she had this really kind of welcoming manner to her, but also, some cadence of, real funny stuff and things she could do off the cuff. So we just started pushing more of that onto her as like our MC, because she did it really, really well. Mm-hmm. Same thing as we have different people who will sit in with the band. Mm-hmm. We'll switch up either some of the music or how we do some of the solos and features based on that person's skill set or the thing that they do really, really well. Yeah. Because it's about featuring the talent. That's the cool thing about this band. That's why it's called the NOLA Jazz Band. It's not Jeff Kane and the NOLA Jazz Band. Right. Because we can fill in those spots with whoever, and we can still get the same feel. It's different with everybody, but you have that same kind of general middle lane thing. It may be over here at one point or over here, but everybody kind of brings their own piece of themselves to that, which is really cool.
What would how long would you say that the band in its current formation?
Well, the bulk of the band has been since March of 2015 when we started playing at the Social Club. We had Scott Davis on trumpet, me, Abby, Jamie Polson on piano, Josh on guitar, and then we've had switch out with some drummers and bass players and trombone. Myron Peterson and he's doing his masters now in Colorado. So Anthony Williams from UNI, who's a monster, has been playing. He's incredible mute work, and then Paul Brightson will fill in for us too. Cool. So both really, really, really good players. So
yeah, I like myself again. I just seeing the band a few times and like having them in the studio a little bit. It's kind of humbling. You know what I mean? Where you see a group of people like gel that way. And like there was no like in the recording process, and this to be true. How many times have you seen a good bunch of folks, good folks, and then you start aiming microphones at them and bad things happen? You did blah, 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 blah. You shouldn't have done it, There was none of that. Everybody had a great time.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff we did in one take.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because we did a lot of songs, and we only had that. We did it, we had one day.
Yeah, just getting down. Yeah. It was a pleasure, man. Absolutely. So, again, if you guys get a chance, XBK.
XBK.
Hopefully you'll be able to check them out at XBK. I haven't met the young lady
Yeah, Toby Parks.
in
Yeah,
person
she's
I hope
great,
to.
and she's with the things that are going on now with COVID and that, there's the NEVA, which is the National Independent Vendors Association. I think I said that right, the acronym. That's all the independent venues have bound together for lobbying and trying to get money for this hopefully next bailout that we have, or next assistance from the government. So she's the Iowa representative for that, and so Toby's really involved and still works with Sony.
Talk to her.
Yeah, and she's an adjunct at Drake. They've got the record label, the nonprofit record label, Station One down there, Station One Records down in Des Moines. So
cool. Awesome.
They work with Drake. So
yeah, we'll definitely I'll
good
have
people.
to make a point to go visit with her sometime. Okay, so hindsight being 2020, or 2020 almost being hindsight. Word.
Yes.
It'll work. No, there's
Find some
word.
word there.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Man, at this point, it almost feels like you'll turn the TV on or be like, there's been a national declaration that December is going to last for 75 days. You know what I mean? Just to stretch it out, Tell me, what has it done to you personally?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can, try to encompass, the band, explain to everybody, the different levels of the entertainment industry that you are in.
Yeah.
And then where we're at with the different parts of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, pretty much, because I've kind of got three levels. I have my band, and locally working with the venues we talked about, Noche, XBK, others. And then on Civic Music, which we do well-known jazz and classical acts, that's kind of a mid-tier if you look at pricing and that type of thing. And then my day job, working with the larger venues in 6 states here in the Midwest and West. Those are like 12 to 15,000 indoor arenas. So pretty much everybody's had no business since things shut down. So there's nothing coming in. There's no revenue, and that's really tough. No matter how good you've been doing in the business, if you can imagine that you still have your rent and expenses, and you have no revenue possibilities whatsoever coming in. I think everybody thought, not just in the entertainment industry, but else that this thing would kind of be waning in the summer, and then there'd be some things in the fall, or maybe even in early next year. But that keeps getting pushed back because, I think we've got another wave coming right now or whatever, if you're looking at the news. So, and that's historically what happened, I think, in 1918 too, when you look at that. So, till there's a vaccine or whatever else, it's really tough for music in general because, there's no monies coming in. So, from my band perspective and the local venues, fortunately, with Noche and XBK, without getting into detail because I don't want to talk about their businesses, but I think they're both going to survive through this, which is great for Des Moines. So the mill went under in Iowa City, Bob Villeneuve, unfortunately. There's going to be others. Neva said 80-90% of the venues might go under this year if there's no stimulus. So hopefully, knock on wood, they get together and do that here before the end of the year or earlier. Then with my band, I knew that we'd have some opportunities, maybe a few to play inside, or as people were streaming, people kind of moved to streaming initially. Right. We had some opportunities for that. We did one of the first virtual festivals, Big Spiderbeck Jazz Festival, which is nationally known. A famous trumpet player, Big Spiderbeck's in Davenport, but it's internationally known too. We were in that for the second year, and they ended up not canceling, but they did it virtually. So we streamed from XBK along with Civic Music. We kind of did it in conjunction with them. And
was it well received? Lots of participants? And
there's a lot of people, watching. I mean, it's got a lot of views online and stuff, and a lot of people participating this year. So that was cool because people didn't have to buy tickets. It was just to keep it kind of out there.
Did that, and not to like get too personal about it, but did that generate revenue for the venues?
Well, just for us playing there, it did, but there weren't people there. But
Right.
yeah.
I mean, like with the streaming, at that point in the game, were people aware, like, hey, this might go on for a minute. These places need a little help. Were people able to make donation, or did it generate revenue in any kind of way?
I hope so. I haven't spoken with either of them at XBK or NOLA, but I know they whenever they have something that they put stuff out there and ask people to give and all of that, because it's really important.
So that's one of the things. Like I wouldn't say I'm trying to push with this, but I try my best to. Especially when we're having conversations around the studio. A lot of times, the local musician or somebody who works for a national company in the music industry, and we're just sitting around and we're chatting. What I really find interesting is that a lot of us will hit Starbucks in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening, right? I like a good cup of Starbucks, right? I'll pay $5 for a cup of coffee at Starbucks, but I also buy records, right? And I also, if I see somebody online that I like, I hear one of their songs, then I'll bust out the Venmo or PayPal, and I will send them $5-10 because I like that song,
Right.
If you can afford to buy a $5 cup of coffee, you can afford to buy somebody's record. And I know that sounds preachy and all, but this is an industry that we have to make survive.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
It can't, like, it's kind of the same thing of saying, well, okay, because you write literature, that's all nice and everything, but we're not into that right now. We're going to watch YouTube. Your books don't count anymore, right?
Yeah.
Folks have to survive. With creativity has to survive, and it has to do it monetarily now in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm a big proponent of, if you see something you like, right? If you get online and you check out NOLA Jazz Band and you're like, man, that sounds hot, buy the record. It's pretty simple to do, and it's not like you're talking 2-3 cups of coffee, right? And just to make it driving home, a cup of coffee lasts you, if you are really, really good at holding it, 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like, and that's it. It's gone. And you throw the cup in the trash and you'll never see it again, right? A record, you can play over and over and over and over. And if you get a download, you play it a gazillion times. If you get a CD, when you finally wear it out, at least you got to wear it out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I get a little long-winded about it, but we have to figure out a way to create revenue so people can survive this.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because along that lines, the music industry's changed, because in the past years ago people would get their record contract, right? That was the big thing. You do it and you get money to make an album, and then you got on tour to produce the album because you made money by the album being sold and the music and all that. Well, now, at least, as things have changed, it kind of flipped on its head. Where
for sure.
people, there's so many tours and so much people love live music anyway, but there's so much touring because that's how you have to support yourself as an artist, because you make 0.007 cents per stream on Spotify.
Right.
You've got to be out on those things, but and there's other things you can be on, but you just don't make the money that way, and that's why so many people sell CDs at their concerts and things like that, and merch and everything else. But getting back to your question, we had a mentor of mine, good friend Evan Christopher's a jazz clarinet player in New Orleans. He came up in March, and we didn't intend to, but we ended up making a CD out of that after the fact. We didn't know the world was going to stop a week after that. I just had notated the sound guys were doing it off their board just because I wanted to hear it, but we listened to it after, and it was pretty good, and Evan was gracious enough to listen. He goes, it's not bad, man. He goes, so it'll be good for you guys to have that out there with my name on it. So he want us to do that, but we both chose to do that for good. So any of the proceeds for that, I'm doing towards musical entities that I think are deserving. They're not gonna get rich off of us. We're a small band, but just people know if they go out and buy our new CD or purchase it, that's what that's going toward. And we've already donated to two different entities in that already with monies that have come in.
Nick's gonna love this part because I've never tried this before. But check that out. Hey Nick, how's that look? Oh, awesome. I'm not supposed to talk to him. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's a CD.
Well, even with that, I was thinking about it was interesting because some of this was already happening. So Evan was here, friend Evan Christopher, March 7th, playing with us at Noche, which was a real treat for us all. And we've been talking about it for a couple of years since he and I met for the first time in New York City. And so when he was here, we were already seeing something was going to happen. Didn't know there was going to be the travel restrictions, but you could kind of see things coming on. Mm-hmm. So he was, looking online when he was at our house, and he figured out some stuff where he could live stream, which he's doing down in New Orleans. Him and his piano player, they've got kind of set up like you guys do, but it's able to split screen and good sound, and so they're live stream, which is something he hadn't done, but he was thinking ahead on it. Mm-hmm. But one thing that struck me, the conversation we had and we've had since then, was he's like, this is, music's going to live through this. There's going to be some good music made. He goes, it's really tough right now because we have to support community. Mm-hmm. And so community's not just the community, the music community, it's community. Right. And it's also your community, and it's beyond your community. I mean, you can really tear that into a lot of different things. So that's one of the things that stuck with me talking about civic music that I'm on. Been the programming chair. So we did some things. I don't want to use the word pivot, but I'll have to use it. We knew we had to do something different when the things were canceling for our season. Right. So we decided to try some stuff, which had been something we were thinking of doing anyway, to do some live streaming, both locally, regionally, and nationally, with people from like first part of April up till August. Mm-hmm. And it did well at first, and then like everything else, the newness kind of wore off. So we saw our numbers go down like this. So we're trying to figure out what to do, and I was like, no one wants to see streaming. And so I was thinking community. I go, there's a different way to approach this. I go, what's that? And I said, we need to look at, one of the things we did with one of our artists, which was a rescheduled concert. It's Emmett Cohen, who's a jazz pianist player, young guy, really, really good in New York City. And he'd been doing stuff from his house, so we didn't want our paid patrons to have the same thing. And it's really done really well, kind of like you guys have here set up. But we wanted something different, so we had him go to Birdland, which was closed, but they could still have it open for someone to play. Right. So they did it from Birdland, which is really cool because some people got to see the inside of Birdland that hadn't been or may never get to New York City. Like, wow, this is cool. This is Birdland. So I took that concept of community, right? And I can share this stuff now because it's public knowledge with what we're doing now with civic music. So a lot of your better artists are in your bigger cities, right? I mean, and they can't tour. So if they're going to play, where are they going to be? They're going to be in New York, they're going to be in LA, they're going to be in New Orleans. Just choose the big city, right? Right. So we're starting with LA and New York, and myself and others that had contacts there. We started reaching out to different venues, and we were trying to find somebody who wanted to partner as community, but had good setups, because we've got it on our end too with our places where they've got stuff like this that has quality audio and video, not just someone from their phone doing a live. And could we partner with them? So we found a place in that we're doing in November. That's it's called Jack's in Southern California, and they were doing stuff outside. They couldn't have it inside yet, but they have this big tent, and they can do it because of weather there. Right. So they have like 70 people social distanced outside. They're paying the musicians not as much as they're used to getting paid, but the guys could make some money, right? Mm. And then they were were able to serve some food, so they're able to kind of make it work a little bit to try to stay above water. So with community, what we came up with was we want to like co-brand this, so we'll pay the musicians, and I won't get into all the how we do it financially with them, but we'll pay the musicians. You guys can take all your stuff there, but you're not going to have that, so that's going to help your ROI because you don't have to worry about paying the musicians. You'll just have your people pay the ticket prices, do all the other things. Then we also set it up with usually you have a guest band before a warm-up band.
Yeah, sure.
So our warm-up band's coming from Des Moines, and the first one's going to be from Noche. No. So we're not only featuring people from Des Moines and LA that already has an audience that's an international audience from that place. So people from Des Moines community,
right.
People all over are going to see that. They come in for the opening act.
Right.
We're helping them financially. We're helping the musicians make more money than they were. So it's this win-win, which you're always looking for, right?
Right.
So I'm only sharing that because, like I said, number one, now it's not confidential because, we're actually doing it. We have the concerts up there. But that's the type of things that people have to think about of how to help each other through this thing. And I think it is about, thinking bigger than yourself and how can I help not just me or my band, but how can we help the larger community in general to get through this thing and work together.
I've been lately, I think for me, my birthday is in March. And so the 16th is my birthday. And the best that I can remember, I think that's when the world stopped.
Yep, it did right about then. It was
like right on my birthday. I'm like
right before your birthday.
What do you mean? I
can't. My birthday.
I can't do business anymore. What? What do you mean? I have to shut my studio down? What? So I've been doing like a lot of reading, listening, talking, and trying to figure out a broader picture of starting with me and then my community, my state, and my country, right? Mm-hmm. And where we're all at, right? And so I have I've been really particular listening to people's conversation, right? And I've heard a couple of really intelligent people say some really intelligent things that have stuck with me. I hear in most conversations someone talking about their rights, right? And as Americans, we have rights, and we are proud of them, and we should be, right? But this person said, well, it's nice that you have rights, and everybody knows you have rights. The part that I think we're leaving out is you also have responsibilities, and mm-hmm. I'm like, well, it turns out that your rights are my responsibilities. So if we're going to make this work together, then I have to be responsible in some way. The old, I'm my brother's keeper, right? Mm-hmm. I am my brother's keeper. So we all, I think if we all kind of think about the overall community of musicians, from here to pick an ocean, we're all in a bad spot. Mm-hmm. And if we all just go, well, I'm just going to go home and make a YouTube video and see if anybody buys my music, it's not going to work.
Right.
We gotta stick together. And then, hence the Rock and Roll No Show was an idea from a couple of years ago that we were just gonna have guests that came into the studio, talk about promoting their new record and how cool their record is and how cool their band is and how cool the shows are and how cool mm-hmm. everything is. Well, now we're in a situation where like finding the cool is you gotta dig a little deeper now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, just hearing about this is that's impeccable work. I mean, that's, and you put a lot of work into that to make that happen, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
I know that these things, like when things were normal, that was hard to get done.
Yeah. Well, I can't share this now either, but we're doing some other things too with looking at some other partnerships. So, with Civic Music. So, again, from the perspective of trying to help the larger community leverage strengths, help other music organizations that are doing things. So, I'm just kind of unique because of the different music worlds I'm in, with some of the people that I've met and stuff, that we've made some other connections there that I think we're going to be able to do some pretty cool things with, that will be much broader than just presenting concerts.
Right.
So that's awesome. Kind of exciting too.
Well, I'll tell you now, if there's anything that we as Alexander Recording Company, if there's any way that we can help, let me know.
Absolutely.
I would more than be willing and interested to help.
Absolutely. We'd have, you did such a great job on our first recording, and Dennis did not put me up to this. Dennis has a great studio here if you ever need a studio. It's amazing. And unfortunately, our second and third CDs were not planned, and they were done live. It was kind of after the fact. We did one for Iowa Public Radio, and this last one I kind of shared the background with that. But thought of that when we were doing ours too, because you used Steve Kapp for the engineering, who's a good friend and great guy, and then John Dixon, who's down in New Orleans right now, who knows, I know John, it's rough down there for them. Incredible graphic artist. We kind of coordinated on the idea on that, and went through a couple iterations of it. So I haven't even been drinking. A couple iterations of it, but he did an awesome job. We were kind of going for there's some old jazz albums that kind of have that and that kind of look. Right. But again, that helped him too, because got him some money for doing the artwork for us and stuff. So
I honestly, when you guys got done with the mastering with the first record, and it was live from the Ark, I was like, man, that's cool. I mean, I was like, yeah. The funny part, and Steve, hopefully Steve will see the Rock and Roll No Show.
Yeah. Hi, Steve. Wait, Steve. Yeah, hey, Steve.
I hope everything, Steve called me up one day, and he said, hey, man, I need an Ark. And I'm like, that's funny. Well, what's going on? What can I do for you? And he said, no, seriously, my studio has flooded. I need an Ark. And I'm like, you're serious, huh? He's like, no, seriously, like my studio's flooded. I'm like, okay, what do you need? Well, I've got this project and this project and this project, and I need to get them done, but I'm in a bind. And so he threw a bunch of gear in his car, and I cleared the calendar, and he came up and he set his gear up, and I think it was a week or so, but he got all the stuff done. And I had met Steve through Chad Jacobson.
Oh yeah, Chad,
a couple of times, but I didn't really know Steve, right? Yeah. And after hanging out with him for a minute, I'm like, yeah, I like you, man. He's a good human being, And
Steve's done it. He's recorded for amazing people in Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Aretha Franklin, Earl Clue, George Benson.
And he's doing it again. Like, he's knocking it down in Detroit right now.
Oh, yeah, he's doing it. I can't share, but he kind of gave a hint on some stuff he's working on. A lot of people know him. Gets some big stuff thrown at him.
Yeah, he's having a good time. I see. I keep up with him a little bit, and I see his posts have gotten a little more dramatic.
Yeah,
I dig it for sure. So okay, so with Ticketmaster, where you at with Ticketmaster? What is the overall consensus right now? Does it look like end of 22 we're going to start seeing shows again?
It has crystal ball. Like I said, initially, we thought, our Michael Rapino's our CEO of Live Nation, so Ticketmaster thought that, stuff would be back, have a few festivals into the summer and fall. So really, it's taken everybody by surprise, right, how this has gone on. So until there's, a vaccine and people are comfortable with that, and things to lessen the effect for people that do get sick, especially with that business, because you're talking, Mike Klein's 12, 15,000 seat arenas.
Right.
no one's going to be sitting in one of those right now for concerts. So it's going to be the last thing to open. The big stuff. But there's some really cool stuff that they're doing in between. They've got some things where, and I'm not speaking out of turn here because it's been published, some of the stuff I've seen. So they worked with their ticketing so that they could socially distance, right? Based on whatever it's different everywhere. This is worldwide, right? What they require. But if it's, 25% capacity or 30%, you can only be so close, in some place. Maybe it's 12 feet, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 6, whatever. You can do that now, with your setting up with whatever your seating is and things. So, there's that stuff. But, it's tough. I mean, and for the clients too, the venues, some of the venues that are there, same thing, because they don't make money. I think even now with people watching, like, baseball's coming back and hockey, and that type of thing. Oh, that's really cool. Well, no venues are getting money from that. It's not like it's full of people because, they make money off concessions and ticket sales and all that type of thing. So
I
it's
saw
still
a
tough.
boxing match, and I'm just, it just caught my eye, and I'm like, are those are cardboard people.
Yeah.
And they had a crowd track that anytime one boxer hit the other one was a good one, they'd turn it up and it just kind of fade in. Ooh, and it fade back out.
It's like the laugh tracks in the old comedies that you used to have on TV,
exactly.
Except it's for the crowd.
Right.
People cheering and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's the TV revenues. They've got to keep, sports going, and that's one way that they're able to do that is through the TV contracts. Right. But the musicians don't have that, or the venues.
My wife just sent me a calendar invitation, and we're going to see Disney on Ice. And I'm like, you work it out. You know what I mean? Like, but it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be social distance.
Yep.
I think it's 4 or 5 seats in between people, and and I'm not positive, but I think the ticket was a little more than it was last time.
Yeah.
Which I understand. You have less revenue involved.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you absolutely have to see Disney on Ice, then those people got to eat, and there's a lot of people that are involved in that show.
Yeah, I think just for example in town, Max, because we're playing Noche on the 7th, our band, November 7th, and Noche, I think, don't quote me here exactly, I'll say it wrong, sorry Max if I don't say it right, but it's like 125, 150 people he can fit packed in there in Noche in the jazz club.
Right.
So he's doing it the right way. He's open, but he's got you buy a socially distanced table so that people can be comfortable. Like it'd be like you go with your family, Dennis, or your close friends that you've hung around, so you don't have to be next to somebody you don't know, which is smart. So, so you've got a table of 2 people, 4, 6, whatever. But I mean, they're more than 6 feet apart. So he's got maybe 30, 35 people in there at the most. That gives you an idea of how much less that is, but. They're doing it right. They're doing temperature checks. Everybody's masked unless you're having drinks. And the musicians, other than, if you're a wind player like me or a singer, can't be. But, the pianist, bass player, drums, they're all, wearing their face masks and stuff. So it's trying to continue to push through it, provide music and money for, local people, but also try to keep doors open, right? So it's important that people realize that those things are going on and support those if they can, and they stream them too.
I give it up to Max, for doing that. That's that's a good idea. And to be honest, if you're going to see that show, right, and it let's just say it typically costs $10, right, to get in, then if it costs $20, why wouldn't you pay it? You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be, at this point, it's got to be as good to see live music as it is to play live music. Yeah. So, I'm glad he's doing it.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is, I mean, they've got a really good stream there. A lot of the places now, like as I mentioned, some of the places that we're working with in LA and New York have that too, where they've set up the really good quality video and audio. Yeah. So I think that's going to be after this part of the business model where, if you can't go to Birdland, or you can't go in here to Noche, but you still want to see the show.
Right.
Maybe it'll be a pay-per-view thing, or I don't know, whatever. But it's going to be a way to get, that out there also for people, which is kind of neat, especially if you're somebody who loves that. And maybe you're sick, maybe you're ill and you're bedridden, you can't get out, and that's something that you really miss. You'll be able to see that now, or see a live performance.
Well, the truth
and stream that live if you want.
Like, how many times have you watched Austin City Limits?
I don't know.
I mean, I've watched Austin City Limits a million times, and simply because they have great artists on it, and I've never been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
but you get to experience it.
Oh, every single time. And honestly, it's one of those things that. Do you remember growing up on the East Coast? I'm sure you remember this King Biscuit Flower Hour.
Yes.
Remember that? Yeah, that was one of those things that, like, I mean, it was radio, but it was you tuned in for it. Like you had to be there.
Yeah.
So some of the streaming stuff, I guess it's our next
Some
step,
of it could be that. Yeah, there's in the traditional jazz vein, there's a guy named Jim Cullum down in San Antonio on the Riverwalk, and he used to have a live thing. He got sponsors and stuff, but he's in one of the things. He had a live thing for like 30 years from down there, but that's how people got to know him. So he was kind of ahead of the game there a little bit with how he did that.
Cool.
But there's so many people out there, like I said, doing live streams and stuff. I think those that do it well, it's going to create new audience and possibly new revenue streams, new partnerships, that type of thing for them.
I wasn't going to say it, but one day soon we will be going live stream. But right now, MediaCom is horrible. You are horrible, MediaCom. And CenturyLink, you're not much better. So when we get some real internet in my neighborhood,
Google Fiber is going to come up here.
Actually, we've got MetroNet. Is that who it is? MetroNet is putting fiber in.
Okay.
I think we get it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And like, not to give the giant corporations a hard time, but when I call them and I'm like, hey, it's broken again. Sir, I need you to unplug I'm like, I don't work for you. You know what I mean? Like, I've gone through it so many times. That's like the second thing that I say now. I'm like, yeah, I'm having some trouble with my internet, and I don't work for you. So, but yeah, hopefully, some of that live stream stuff will become the go-to. You know what I mean? Like again, like Austin City Limits, that thing where it's like, oh, you know what? It's Saturday night. Let's check out what's going on at Birdland.
Yeah, it's another option. I think it's a way to brand. There's nothing that beats being there.
Oh no!
I mean, they've done, the science. I'm not a scientist, but they've done the scientific studies where they've wired people up at live events and seen how it actually changes their brain chemistry when you're there. With everybody around, and which is. If you've been there, you understand. And as you're a musician, you get it too. When you're kind of in that zone playing with people and stuff, you can't really get that without an audience.
I've read some stuff lately that says that what happens in some of those situations is that your brain actually begins to develop new pathways and produces new proteins that generate a growth in your cognitive ability. So like you get turned on, literally turned on.
There's endorphins released too, I think, and stuff too. Yeah, naturally from that.
Serotonin. So yeah, go see live shows when you can.
You can't get that from a stream.
Right, for sure. And there is no way that I have known that you can stream whiskey. Impossible. Like, if they figure out wireless electricity and live streaming whiskey, that's it. I'll just be sitting right here indefinitely.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that we love when we play. And like, I'll just use for example the social club, because people were like, I'm sitting here right now, probably like 2 feet in front of me. If that, there was people like right there, and I know some people that would freak them out, but it was great because you could. You could not just see them, but you could just feel the energy, and that just adds this X factor. Bringing the band, because you don't know what the band's going to give to you. You know, everybody's different each day and stuff,
Right.
and you've had your life experiences that impact how you all play together. But you got that, but you got the audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's like, you know, in sports they talk about, what is it, the sixth man in basketball or whatever. You know, you got 5 guys, that's the sixth man. It's the
What do they
same
call
thing
it?
with playing live. That live person is your other band person, because if
Right.
you got a great audience, that takes you up.
What do they call it with the Chiefs?
Well, it'd be the 12th man, but
Well, yeah.
the Seahawks are more known for that.
Oh,
12th
right.
man.
Yeah.
I give him grief. I'm not a hardcore football fan, but he has dyed in the wool Chiefs fan.
Okay.
Like his beard used to be black.
Yeah.
But he dyed in Chiefs colors.
You've got your first dynasty quarterback since Len Dawson, so it's been a while.
Right?
It's been a while. I mean, you had little guys here and there for a little bit, you know, that were on, like Montana and some other, just for a little bit of time, but it's your first quarterback since Len Dawson. It's going to be a while. So.
Yeah.
Well, the Vikings had a great quarterback for a minute. What was Favre? Was that his name? Don't send me any emails. I'm only kidding.
Leave the comments down below.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't get all wild about the Vikings.
No hate mail's coming.
And how did Dennis's house get burned down? He said 2 mean things about the Vikings. All right, so Ticketmaster, still getting there, like still figuring out what's going on.
And it's totally, and it's interesting with as big as that business is, it's totally dependent on, because it's kind of, even though it's a big company, it's kind of decentralized anyway.
Right.
The way that they operate. So it really depends, you know, it's a global company, but it depends on the country, the region, locality, because
Right.
everybody, it's globally too, is somewhat like the U.S. Everybody's different, but every place seems to be having different structures and ways that they mitigate things. So
Right.
there's no like one consistent thing of all of a sudden one country or one area or one state's going to open up. It depends on your locality and how things are going. So
Are you guys, are you basing, and if you know this or not, are you guys basically going off of CDC recommendations, or are you using like
they're working with
the Event Safety Alliance, or
all those things? Yeah, you know, and they're, you know, and the venues all talk, you know, with the things that they're trying to do with mitigations and things, and so I mean everybody's talking to each other.
I know the safety guys that I know have been used are just it's just nonstop. You know, I mean it seems like they're working 10 times harder than they were before it hit, and there's no shows.
Yeah.
So but all right. So typically, what I try to do with this is typically the guest is an artist, right? A musical artist or a industry personnel, right? And you're both, right? So generally, the industry folks, I don't subject them to this, but I want to play a little. I want to play a little game with you, if you don't mind. All right. So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, and these are just questions for me.
Okay.
Right? And so what happens with this is, like, I was thinking to myself when I put this together, I was like, you know, like if you met Bob Dylan, you know, would you have these deep philosophical questions that you wanted to ask? And no, I don't. I'm just not that smart. Right.
Yeah.
So I put together a little list.
Okay.
It's only a couple of questions, and to be completely fair about it, the answers are yes, no, or I'll pass.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't have to plead the fifth.
Nope. Nope. You sure don't.
All right.
You know.
Yes. I'll have Colby help me out. He's got a phone.
Yes, no, or I pass. And they're really not hard.
Okay.
Right? If you had one song left to play, right? Like just one.
Yeah.
Would it be an original?
Oh, okay, that's an interesting question. I'd probably say no.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. One is, I mean, I'm just starting to write some things, so I'm not. It wouldn't be anything of mine at this point because I'm not anywhere near writing where I need to be. But it wouldn't be an original because if I did a song, usually it's something that I hear. I listen to a lot of music. I love it, but usually I'll hear something and it'll hit something within me. You know, either from a time period where I'm at or where I've been.
Right.
That. You know, it just kind of hits something within you.
Right.
So generally it'd be something that I've heard.
Gotcha.
And that's a lot of what I do with the band too, similar with some of the songs we do. It's different things that I've heard. I'll give you an example. My friend Evan Christopher, when we first met in New York City and I was getting some time with him, learning some things, he was playing a small club called Mesros in New York, and I had a buddy from college here that was contracting in New York City. So I said, why don't you come with me? Because he likes music. So we went, and everyone was playing the piano player from the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, so, you know, really good players. So I was going through, and he got to this one song. It's the first time I'd heard it. There was an original of his. It was called, like, Waltz for All Souls is the name of the song. And it's kind of got the gospel changes in it. You know, there's all kinds of things you do with that. But he wrote it after Katrina, because he was feeling, you know, the whole thing that happened there, and he ended up living in Paris for a couple of years after that, and then coming back to New Orleans. But he's having some other stuff going on in his life. I don't know if he hadn't met his wife yet. There's just a lot of personal things going on. It's a tough time for New Orleans, so this song just kind of came to him and stuff. So, but when he played it there, and we were in the front row, you know, it's a very narrow room. Mesro is really small. It's a long bar, but it's really narrow, the music place. And just the way he played it, I mean, it was like singing through his instrument, and, you know, the love, the sorrow, the pain. I mean, you know, if you've ever had those, some people get goosebumps. When I get really, really, it's not goosebumps, it's the whole, like, warmth thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, that's only happened a few times in my life. So, you know, my buddy's behind me. I'm not sure what he's thinking. So I'm getting that, is getting the end. And I'm like, I'm not a person who I'm very loving, but I don't, you know, cry a lot. It's probably a few times, and a tear was like going down my eye. I'm like, man, that just really touched me. So I'm kind of like this, and I look at my buddy from college, and I go, hey man, I said, that song just touched me. I look, his eyes are all red. He's like, I go, oh, I wasn't the only one. So, you know, we were kind of joking around, but yeah, it was just, you know, one of those moments that song really, really hit you. So, you know, I know him a lot better now. He's a really, really good friend and mentor. And so I asked him, I said, hey, would you, you know, if I'm doing stuff, would you be willing to share the song with me? Because the song's easy. He goes, but it's got to be, it's what you make of it.
Right.
So I'm going somewhere with this. So we played it Noche. That's the first time that I played it in public. And so I was playing it. I was kind of explaining that as the setup before I played it, not knowing who's in the audience, right? I mean, I knew some of the people that had come and seen us. So there's one couple in the front audience, gentleman, probably a little older than me, you know, beard and stuff. It's kind of sophisticated looking. And so I kind of explained where I heard the song. I said, you know, this is for anybody out there who's hurting, you know, it's Waltz for All Souls. So it is, you know, means to you what it means to you. So I played it, and I got to the end, and the guy comes up after, and he goes, hey, I just wanted to, he goes, you know, I appreciate that. He goes, I'm a professor at Iowa State. I said, oh, okay. And I forget what his name is, but he was in the engineering, you know, division and all that. And he said, I just wanted to tell you that, he goes, that song and the way you played that just hit my heart today. He goes, that I was feeling all these feelings, and he goes, that just soothed my soul hearing that. And then I'm like, oh my God. So I'm getting that, you know, like, that's, you know, that's what I wanted to channel, you know, so, you know, I was like, you know, make people feel it. So, you know, I was going, oh, but the thing I didn't know, then he hit me with it, because it didn't even dawn on me. Mm-hmm. That was that day that they, the girl who'd been killed up at Iowa State, that they were honoring her at the football game. So he was there, and this was that evening.
Wow.
So he came to that. And so anyway, I long story short, I told Evan that story because I said, this is what music can do. I said, you did it to me, and then fortunately somehow I channeled the song, and this guy, that song was meant for him. So that's why I choose one that I know, because it's got to be something that like
awesome, man.
I've felt, because then I think you can really channel that. So
that's fantastic.
I don't know if I could write anything like that.
That's a great story. Yeah. Awesome, man.
True story.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, now the rest of my questions will suck. Now, see, actually,
it goes downhill real fast.
We can switch the order if you tape this, right?
The cool part is I'm not editing any of these things.
Okay.
I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not. And
I'm good with that.
So when my prediction will probably be we'll get some of those punk rock guys from Des Moines on. That one we might wish for editing, but we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? But it's going to be fun. So we kind of already talked about this, and I know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask anyway just so I keep it. Do you ever drink too much?
No. Used to. My younger days, but yeah, I hardly drink at all now. I mean, when I'm playing, it's, water and stuff, so I just don't drink that much anymore. So.
Okay.
Still enjoy, drink or two here or there, beer, a good glass of wine or something, but I just don't drink that much anymore.
I can't help it. I'm a whiskey fan.
Yeah.
I just, since I was 4 years old, I've been a whiskey fan. I can't help it. And that's my grandmother's fault. I had a very interesting life growing up. My grandfather on my dad's side, for one, my father was a Marine.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a Baptist minister, my dad's dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mom was a super, super, super proud housewife.
Yeah.
Right? And she kind of got bored a little bit when I was 5 or 6. Remember Wonder Bread?
Oh, yeah.
My mom was a Wonder Bread clown for maybe a month.
Yeah, the multicolored circles on there.
She was a Wonder Bread clown, and that's probably still some of what's wrong with me. But my mom's mom owned the most. What's the word I want to use? I'm going to use the best intelligent description I can. She owned the most redneck bar in town in Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I have seen her, when I was a little kid, they would put me on the shuffleboard machine.
Yeah.
And I would play shuffleboard while my grandma attended bar, And I have seen my grandmother grab 350-pound loggers by the ear and escort their drunk ass out the door. And don't come back. So
We both got this bar experience thing going
here. Oh, I'm telling you. So it was wild. I'd see grandma on Saturday and granddad on Sunday, and it was a nice little balance. Yeah. The cool part is there was a jukebox in the bar. And there was only a piano at the church. My grandfather, guitars, stringed instruments, stuff like that. No. No, there'd be none of that stuff, And I don't recall anybody dancing.
Yeah.
Okay. You look pretty health conscious, right?
More than I used to be.
Do you smoke?
Nope.
Okay, good enough. You're next. I'm interviewing you next time. Okay.
You're gonna start singing the Adam Ant song to me now? Don't drink, don't smoke.
No.
What do you? Okay.
No. See, this is one of those things. That's one of those questions that just in the.
I will smoke a cigar every once in a while on a special occasion. I don't consider myself a smoker, but that's like a luxury to me.
Okay,
yeah,
so
a good high quality cigar.
That's me right now too. I smoked Camel Straight cigarettes for about 30 years.
Yeah,
and I put them down 6 years ago, 7. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even count. I don't care. I don't smoke anymore. But lately, a well-crafted cigar with a whiskey drink is just, it's really nice. You know?
The best cigar I ever had. One of the companies I worked for a while, we used to do business with the oil companies down in Houston, and we landed a pretty big deal with this one guy. Real nice guy. We're still friends. On Facebook, I don't see him. I'm not down to Houston that much anymore. But he took us to this high-end tequila and cigar bar. And they also had like this little jazz group in there. It was really cool. Had all these little like cubbyhole places. It was a private thing where you had to have the key to get in. And
nice.
All that. But it was one of those places that was really, really, truly high-end. Like I said, I'm not a huge drinker, but we had I had a whiskey. I don't remember exactly what it was. So the guys asked me what I'm drinking. Are you a big drinker? No. You like it, smooth, soft. So they started asking us about our cigar because he's picking out a cigar for us. He goes, you like something that's heavy? You like something that's lighter? He's going through this whole list of, more questions than I ever thought you could ask about a cigar, right? Mm-hmm. So guys, I think I got something you'll like. And, this is really expensive, right? But this was the big deal. We expensed it. It was okay. We got the go-ahead from the company that expensed it. So anyway, this guy comes out with a cigar, does a thing where he warming it up on the end for you at first, cuts it off and stuff, and then as you do it, oh my gosh, it's the best cigar I've ever had. I don't remember what it was. I kept the thing for it for a while, but
nice.
I probably couldn't afford another one. It was a good cigar.
Were we in Memphis?
It was Memphis.
Is that what you told me?
Yeah.
That
Urban Street and down in that area.
That was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
It was a cigar bar.
Yeah.
Just, go in, and I think maybe half of the people in there were smoking cigars and the other half were smoking blunts. And some of them were just smoking doobies.
Yeah.
It seemed like a pretty open environment. It was pretty cool though.
There's actually a place, I haven't been there, but I know some guys have been there in Clive or West Des Moines, somewhere just the suburbs outside of Des Moines. It's a cigar bar. It's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, check that out.
So.
That's always a good time. Definitely. We'll have to find out what that is.
Might have been a place I was trying to find the cigars last weekend. I don't know.
Nice.
Couldn't find it.
That was a good time anyway. Okay. And again, these questions are just for me. These are the things that I like to know about people that I like to listen to their music. Right? Do you pray?
Do I pray?
Mm-hmm.
I do. I don't pray as much as my wife or my son, probably, or my daughter, but yes, I do. I'm a, what's my wife say? My wife says I'm more spiritual and she's more religious.
Right.
But yeah, I do. I kind of channel it when I feel more of a need to, but I have more of an ongoing conversation than a formal. Mine's more informal, I guess you could say. The way that I communicate.
My 4-year-old, one of the things that I'm really trying to do, to the best of my ability, is have dinner with my 4-year-old. And when we out at the farm the other night, we had a deer grill out at the farm, right? I'm a pretty avid deer hunter.
Yeah.
And I don't hunt things to hang on my wall.
Yeah.
I enjoy hunting, and so we had deer steaks and we cooked them on the grill, and at the end of meal preparation, we've got a table full of people, and I never ask people hey, can you tell me what your religious belief is so I don't insult you, or I just say hey, everybody, let's grab hands, I'm going to say grace.
Yep.
And so the cool part is my 4-year-old is starting to ask me why do you pray? And I'm like, man, I got some good explaining to do here.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's cool. But I think I'm with you. I've got a lot of background in religion, and I think I'm very spiritual. So that's good to know.
Yeah, my son can whip off an out loud prayer like nobody I've ever seen. I mean, it's pretty amazing. He's got the gift of just being able to say the prayer out there for whatever the situation or
channel
is.
Yeah, so. Awesome. Okay, do you shoot guns?
You know, I don't, and not because I don't want to or I don't enjoy them. My dad never hunted, so I never really had the opportunity to go out and do it. So don't.
Well, if you ever get a wild hair and you want to, let me know and I'll take you.
I know who to go
seriously,
to. If I want to.
I just built a pretty big range.
Yeah.
Like 20-foot tall berms and all that stuff. Like, I want my neighbors to be happy and comfortable. You know what I mean? Like when I built the studio, my neighbor behind me, Mary Wheelock. Hi, Mary. I hope you'll be checking this out too. Mary didn't seem very happy.
Yeah.
About the idea of a music studio being next door.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mary's previous experience with music studios were bands practicing in old houses and making noise until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right, yeah.
And so I recall I opened the door here and I said, hey, why don't you just come on in and I'll show you what I'm doing. The entire place was gutted. I mean, you could see through all of the walls.
Yeah.
It was just studs, And she was like, oh my goodness, like you destroyed the place. And I'm like, yeah, so we're putting in double walls here. We're doing a floating wall. This will be isolated, double 5/8 rock, green glue, just gave her a rundown. And she was like, oh, you're serious? Oh, yes, I'm serious. And now she picks on me because she never hears music come out of the place.
Oh, yeah.
Ever. So I'm like, I don't want to upset my neighbors. I want to be a good neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to ruin the vibe of the neighborhood. I want to add to it.
Yeah. Well, looking from the outside, you would not know that you've got this cool studio in here, especially the big area down behind where you're sitting right now.
I've been here, since 13? Yeah.
So.
I've been here since 13, and I forget sometimes, and I'll be walking by the front door and I'll see somebody taking a picture of my house, and I just can't get used to it. So I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Like in my brain, I just forget I've got a red Stratocaster on top of the house. The peaked roof. Yeah. There's a red Strat up there. And so people are walking by and they're like, oh, look at that. And so they'll stop across the street taking pictures of the house, know, and I'm like, it's the FBI. Like, what do they want with me? I didn't do anything. Okay, so here be the fun part.
Okay.
You can use singular words, or if you're Danny Grouse, you can use 2 words which are singular words. Danny. This is what I want you to, if it's singular words or if it's an idea. I want you to tell me 5 things that make up Jeff.
5 things that make...
Yeah, 5 things that make you.
Oh, that make me. Okay. Let's see here. For the 5. Giving back. That's a singular, right? So, whatever. Giving back. Learned that from my grandmother. Mentoring. Legacy. Learning. And enjoying the ride.
Awesome. Fantastic. Those are all wonderful 5 things. Every single one of them. Awesome. This is what I love about you. As long as I've known you, I don't think that I have ever caught you on a day, or like Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. I have had several of my friends over the last year. Hey, you deleted me on Facebook. Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But why? Oh, I don't know. It must have been something you posted. You know what I mean? Like, I just,
Yeah.
everything that I've known about you to date is positive, and the world needs more of that, man.
Yeah.
So good on you.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for being a positive influence.
Yeah.
Try
to stay that way. It's important to have that mindset. And it's because they say the world is what you give out into the world is like a mirror back to you. So I think that if more people would have had that analogy or see that's important to know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
That's the spiritual thing. That's not a religious thing. It's kind of the whatever karma or what you put out into the universe. I think those are spiritual things.
I think when you figure that out, if you're lucky, when you figure out, man, like things are just so bad. Why is that? And you go, oh, wait a minute, I own this. If you were lucky enough to have that moment and you go, oh, it doesn't have to be that way, then I think you really can become that eternal optimist, But I think it is necessary sometimes to only having a tube of black and tube of white to paint with, really when you get color, it makes it 10 times better. I think you've got to struggle a bit before you feel like, before you can really appreciate what some success feels like,
Yep. And again, I think just from growing up, my grandparents were always this way. It's like, it's kind of you won't understand someone unless you really, know them and know what their experience is, because sometimes people just see a action or a reaction, but they don't know where someone is. I think growing up too, I struggled with that because everyone has their struggles growing up. But one of the things I always thought everybody should like me. So if you and I were friends, Dennis, and all of a sudden you're like not being nice to me or whatever, like, what did I do? Well, you could have had something happen in your life. Through the old, it's not about me. As a young adult, that's something that I had to figure out that the world doesn't circle around you just because someone's not being nice to you that day or maybe even doesn't like you. It has nothing to do with you. Everybody has their own things that they're going through, their own experiences. So I think you've got to look at things that way.
I've been trying to wrap my head around the idea that, like, me and Colby, right? We spend a bit of time together, and me and you, right? If you're not happy, right, and it's something that is outside of my preview, I just don't know it, right? Still, in my realm here, right, it is my responsibility, and I need to do everything that I can to make sure that you are, right? And so instead of going, man, Jeff was kind of being a dick today, and just writing it off, the step beyond that is, hey, Jeff, man, you seem a little off today. What can I do to make you feel better? Oh, nothing. Yeah. Listen, if there's anything that I can do, please, let me know. And that makes a difference. It's not the easy thing to do, but when you start taking that responsibility for other people and their comfort and happiness and all of that, to me, it feels like every time that I've done it, it has made me happier and more comfortable.
Yeah. I think sometimes just, like you said, noticing it, not trying to probe or solve it or whatever else, just people knowing that you noticed is important.
Right. If there's an elephant in the room, maybe it's a good call to go like, hey, did you see that elephant? You know what I mean? Like,
I still remember my wife and I, my cousin, him and his wife had gone to these ongoing marriage things through their church and stuff. So we went to one when the kids were young years ago, and because at the time I'd be someone like, if my wife had something, I'd be like, okay, do this, and this. if she had something going on, I'd try to solve it for her, right?
Oh,
Rather
yeah.
than her talk about her emotions. So
Yeah.
the woman had a great thing, which was a great learning experience. She's like, if someone's coming to you and they're opening up, and she was like, it's like they're taking their heart and you're going, here it is. Just look at it. Don't solve it. Just let me have it out there, let it beat, and then let me put it back.
Right.
You need to
let them keep it.
Yeah. You don't have to solve it. You don't have to have an answer. You just need to be present and caring. So that was a great lesson.
That's awesome.
From that session. So
they it just like I get hung up on all these little stories and stuff. But I think this is what the whole point of the thing is, so we all can get to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
A good friend of mine, Kevin Sturm, years ago invited me to a retreat, right? And he had told me, like, hey, I just came back from this retreat. I had so much fun. If I do another one, will you go? I didn't ask him what kind of retreat.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him anything.
Mm-hmm.
I said, sure, absolutely. And so he called me about a year later and he goes, hey, you remember I asked you if you're coming to a retreat, right? I said, yeah. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm like, okay, cool. Send me the address. I'll go. I didn't ask a thing about it.
Yeah.
So we get to the retreat, Kemper Catholic High School. I show up. I'm like, I didn't know Kevin was Catholic. Okay, And so they said, okay, everybody introduce yourself, give a little background, right? And, people are going around and they're talking about their experience and stuff and yada yada. And I go, I'm Dennis. I'm a Baptist. And you can hear everybody go, who invited him?
Yeah.
So it was honestly, it turned out great. We had a wonderful time, and it was some really good communication, and I'm really glad I did it. But when you were saying, like, a church group for stuff like that, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Was like, hey, I'm a Baptist. Go. Like, yikes. Can you see me and Jamie like going to a couples group at church? I think it would be pretty good. Jamie is very animated.
Yeah.
I'll put it like this. I'm a fairly, I don't want to say aggressive. I'm a fairly, I talk a lot. I'm very animated myself. Like, I'll pound on the table to get my point across and all of that stuff. And Jamie tames me in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
It's like, you be quiet. Yes, ma'am. Nothing but fun. Okay, so Jeff, to just recap, we can find NOLA Jazz Band, merch, CDs, stuff like that.
You can find, we've got our Facebook and Instagram, which I think we're putting at the end of this or somewhere
Yeah,
else.
we'll put it in
and
the
then,
description.
so that's our main two pages. And then you can find us, so you can purchase CDs, or you can stream music, or you can purchase music. We're pretty much on every major streaming that's out there. Amazon Music, Apple, Spotify.
So can people actually, like, the CD you were saying, you're gonna take the proceeds and put them towards musical interests.
Either musical ventures, venues, people that we think could benefit from those right now.
Where can folks buy this?
You can get that you can buy those online too, on CD Baby, or people can send me a message on Facebook or Instagram through those pages, because before these came out and they were online, I was sending stuff out all over the U.S. and locally and stuff too, so you can do it that way too.
Let's see. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Appreciate you having me here.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you like to add, sir?
It was pretty awesome. I mean, just the more people we get in and just seeing where the background they come from and everything Jeff does, especially the community part, I thought that was...
It's diverse.
It really ties into what we were talking about a couple times ago. Just community keeps coming up. So, pretty awesome.
Yeah, we're not in this alone, right? Gotta help each other out.
And so, I guess our stuff, the website, there should be links on the website, the YouTube, the Facebook, all of that stuff, right?
So the producer says.
Yeah, so says the producer.
Produced by AMG.
Yep. So, I guess I'll end with this. And y'all have heard me say it before, and I'm going to say it every single time, unless, of course, my brain just doesn't function anymore, then that's possible. We all got into this thing for many, many different reasons, right? And normal, as we know it, right? Mm-hmm. Normal for your day job, normal for your band, normal for my day job, for the bands I know and love, yours being one of them. Mm-hmm. Normal is over. Mm-hmm. Normal ain't coming back. But none of us, not one of us got into this business because we dig normal. So we will rise above this, and the only way we're going to do it is together. So thank you for being part of it. Thank you for actually taking the lead and like jumping on some things that's going to help our community and communities outside of ours bridge that gap, because that's super important. I'm glad you had the vision to be able to put that together. That's a hell of a thing. So this is how we're going to get it done, y'all. So, All right. So until next time, I'm Dennis, Colby, Jeff Kane. Range is cold.
Downrange.